From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here, back. It's live and direct to you on Morning Line. We had a taped show yesterday, but starting things off today with, we're shaking up our schedule this week as I'm just back from last week's vacation. Thanks again to Steve and Adam for filling in and all of you participating. But back at it live today, and we're going to do Open Phones Tuesday, if that's cool with you. We're just going to open up the phone lines. Since I'd been away and I wasn't here last week to go through all of this, and a lot has happened. So why don't we throw it all out there? Whatever you'd like to talk about this morning, news of the past week. I'll, as usual, set the table for you. The number 737-7587. If you want to join in the conversation, whatever's on your mind, stories of the past week, the past couple of days, or just from overnight, a lot of things going on. And I've got a bunch of stuff. Mary Elena and our great team of interns have hit me with all kinds of stories and clips and news that we can draw from. But let me throw a few of these out to you, and then you may want to comment on some of these or touch bases on something else that's on your mind this morning. But we'll do Open Phones Tuesday today. And just one of the stories while I was gone last week on vacation that even I took note of because it made headlines not just here but all across the country is this gruesome case involving Gregory Hale, the Coffee County cannibalism case, accused of killing and dismembering Lisa Marie Hyder at his home near Manchester earlier this month, and there she is. And, he's accused of murdering her and then, cannibalism, actually eating a part of her. Just awful. And here's the thing. There was a new development just in the past couple of days on this. He will undergo a mental evaluation before his case goes forward. And sometimes I think about the legal system and the process and how darn slow it takes. This guy is accused of not only murdering and dismembering, but eating a woman, and he needs a mental evaluation. Hey, let me save you some time. He's crazy as a loon. Now, does that mean he's got the insanity defense? No. That's a whole different thing in my mind. But a mental evaluation? What are we going to learn from that we don't already know? But I guess that's the case. The good part of this now is he's being held on $1.5 million bond, so it's not as though he's going to be released while he undergoes this mental evaluation. But what a bizarre, awful story. Another story, actually, that I reported on yesterday, being a judge, a high-profile judge, a judge that puts criminals away can sometimes put you in harm's way. And yesterday, I got a tip that a friend of mine, actually, I've come to know him over many of the big high-profile cases he's covered in Rutherford County, Judge Don Ash. He most recently did like the Shanterica Madden murder case where she was convicted of killing Tina Stewart. Other high-profile cases, someone targeted his home and shot it up. They used a high-powered pellet or BB gun. He wasn't home at the time, but targeted his home. 9 shots going into a bedroom window where his grandchildren sleep, and then a couple in the garage down below. I'll tell you this, I got to talk to him yesterday. He's out in East Tennessee trying a case because he's now a senior judge, but he says judges and Judge Davenport there, Donna Scott Davenport's the juvenile court judge, they all say this kind of stuff comes with the territory. And to a man or woman, they say they will not be intimidated by someone taking pot shots at their home or coming after them. And it's interesting, police are going to investigate pot shots at anyone's home. But know this, they're going to take this as seriously as anything, because striking out at a judge is striking out at the legal system. It's beyond just striking out at a private citizen. And so we did the story yesterday. They're working the case. They hope they can find some leads as to who was doing that and maybe why. What was the motive about all of that? On a larger scale, I'm just wondering what some of you maybe think, or if you'd like to sound off. You see what's happening right now in Iraq, and the president now, I think I printed something up on that most recently, but the concern right now that the Taliban is again getting a stronghold in Iraq, the president exploring all available options to combat the Islamic extremists now advancing, getting closer and closer now to Baghdad. He met with the National Security Team to consider possible military action. Militants from the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria have overrun a large part of northern Iraq in recent days in a brutal quest to overthrow the Iraqi government, all right? So you know, you have to ask yourself, going back and, you know, to when we first went in and invaded Iraq. I don't want anyone, if you're going to call in and say, well, we had to do it and invade Iraq because of what happened on September 11th, save your breath, because you're wrong, all right? Saddam Hussein, okay, did not bomb the Twin Towers, all right? That was Osama bin Laden, and we got him, all right? So don't give me that. We went into Iraq for a variety of reasons, one of which was that Saddam Hussein supposedly had weapons of mass destruction, by the way, which were never found, all right? Why did we really go in there? Many think it was just to enrich companies like Halliburton and to go after oil. Whatever the case, we finally pulled out some of our troops, but many, many brave men and women that served lost their lives. And now yet another story, a headline here in the Tennessean, widow hopes all not in vain. Many of the loved ones back in the States who lost their husbands or wives in combat over in Iraq, and the gains that were made there to set up, you know, what we hoped would become a democratic government, are now seeing that fall away and wondering whether or not their loved ones died in vain. And it's very, very sad. And your thought on this at this point, and do we go back in there and send troops again to try to stabilize the region? In a rare move, we're even talking with Iranian officials, you know, talking about getting with Iran to help with what's happening in Iraq. Can you imagine that? Iran? We've had our problems with that. But that whole thing is very, very disturbing to me. And there were a lot of people at the outset saying, you know, the thinking that we could set up a democracy in Iraq is folly if we're not going to stay there forever, which we don't want to leave troops there forever. And when we pull out, we see what's happening now. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have pulled out. My point now, hindsight's 20/20, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. All right? We just shouldn't have. We should have been going after Osama bin Laden. Saddam Hussein? There were never any weapons of mass destruction. And now, if the Taliban takes over in Iraq, my opinion, it's going to be worse than it was when Hussein was there. We have these religious zealots now. Under Hussein, religion wasn't allowed. Okay, so you didn't have the zealots. Yeah, you had a dictator. Anyway, what do you think? If you want to sound off, agree, disagree with me, be willing to take your call on that. But my heart goes out to the loved ones now that see what's happening and wonder, was it all worth it? Did my loved one die in vain? A couple other things before we take you know, a few calls in our first break. Are you following the World Cup at all? I'll tell you right now that I'm not traditionally the biggest soccer fan. I think it's a wonderful sport, but I never played it, and I don't watch it too much domestically. But when the World Cup starts, I do watch. Did you watch the World Cup last night with the U.S. Pulling off just a big win over Ghana? They actually pulled that one off in some of the other games. Or do you not give a hoot? And if you're not paying attention to that, maybe you're paying attention to the Vanderbilt baseball team that's advancing at the College World Series. Look like they have quite a team right now, you know, coming together. And who knows, maybe they'll win the national championship if you're following that. One other story, as you know, Bo Bergdahl back now and still being treated. The sergeants here, you knew this was coming. It looks like a movie is on the works on the Bo Bergdahl story. Filmmaking duo behind movies like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30 are planning a movie on this. They're getting the details together. You know, before they get a movie together, I want to know, as you see, what Bergdahl has to say about the circumstances of his capture and how it all played out. It's a fascinating story, but as I say, I mean, a lot of people are not sure he's a hero. He could be a whack case that walked away for whatever reason and was taken prisoner, and soldiers perhaps lost their lives trying to rescue him. If that's the case, he's not a hero, all right? He's an American, and I'm glad we got him back, but I want to know the true story, and I wonder what angle the movie will take if it goes that direction. So if you have any thoughts along those lines, give us a call. Yeah, I've got some other stuff I can throw out there for you, but, you know, the phone lines are open, 737-7587. Before we take our first break, I'm going to take a call or two just to squeeze in. Let's start off with Dennis. Dennis, good morning.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Good. What's up, Dennis?
I need to give you an apology.
What's that about?
Back some time ago, I called you and told you talked the talk, but you didn't walk the walk.
Okay, I've heard that before. Go ahead.
But like I say, this was about 6 years ago that I did that to you.
Okay.
And I stopped watching your program for a while. For the last couple of years, I've been watching it again. But one thing, I'm dissatisfied with our government. As I told you before, and our governor is not right. Our mayor is not right.
Are you talking about the local, the city government here in Nashville?
Talking about all of our government. The government of the United States of America is not right.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, if you play on my team, you're going to play by my rules.
Yeah.
Just the way it is.
Okay, well, what are you most upset about?
Governor Haslam,
Yeah?
they've got a man in prison named Cyrus Wilson. And all the people that testified came out and said that they were forced to tell a lie on that young man. And he spent 20-some years in prison. Why doesn't the governor give him a reprieve and let him out of prison?
I know what you're talking about. Now, I don't know if he's asked for a pardon or what they go along those lines, and I don't know all the details in the Wilson case, but that's something they can request, you know. It's interesting, by the way, when you bring that up, and it's good hearing from you, Dennis. There's another story going on here now where a local individual who years ago was arrested and lost part of his farm for growing medical marijuana for himself. It was illegal here, and they went and got him. He's in the process right now of being considered getting a pardon from the President of the United States to clear his record from that. Never sold the marijuana, but was growing it, using it medically for the medical condition he had years ago. Now, with the advances that have been made and the fact that some states now are allowing medical marijuana, Tennessee's even looking at it. I think they're looking at maybe getting a pardon for him. I think that'll be an interesting story if and when that happens. And listen, as we go to the break, you know this is the tornado storm season. I don't know, Mary, do we have it as we go to the break? I just wanted to take a look at those twin tornadoes in Nebraska. This you don't see very often. Wow. Oh, yeah. Thanks for taking the number off there. Look at that. Holy cow. And some of this video, if you watched it last night, was taken by cars on, you know, a freeway there driving right by that. That almost looks like a bridge between the two tornadoes there, but wow. And just the destruction of a small Nebraska town there. We know already a 5-year-old child was killed, but you know, we've seen our share of tornadoes and all this, but that double dose of trouble right there in Nebraska, incredible video. And the storms continue to make their way through the mid-state region, or rather the middle of the country region, heading this direction. I hope we don't get anything like that, but wow. All right, on that note, we'll take a break. When we come back, if you're on hold, stay where you are. We got lines open. It's Open Phones Tuesday. Lots to talk about. Set the table, but if there's anything more on your mind, you want to ask me about my bees, how they're going, talk about some of the weather we've been having. Otherwise, it's wide open. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this.